Okay, let's dive in. There's this subtle thing that happens for a lot of us, right? Maybe around 40, maybe early 50s.
Yeah.
It's not always this huge drama, but more like a quiet awareness. Things feel, well, just a bit off.
Yeah, like the volume's been turned down slightly.
Exactly. Your recovery time, maybe your focus isn't quite as sharp, the energy you used to just have, it feels different.
Little things like forgetting names more often,
Yeah.
or that afternoon slump hitting harder.
Right. Or maybe you're just reacting more instead of responding thoughtfully. Nothing feels drastically wrong, but maybe not quite right either.
It's a common experience.
And the usual story we hear is, okay, this is it, the start of the decline, or, the dreaded midlife crisis.
Hit an old narrative.
But we're pushing back on that today. We want to explore a really powerful counter idea, the second prime.
Mm-hmm.
So this deep dive draws on some serious sources, clinical research, expert insights, a really interesting new book. The goal is to show why midlife isn't necessarily about decline at all.
Quite the opposite, actually.
It can be this amazing window of opportunity for health, for vitality, maybe even becoming the fittest you've ever been. And look, this is for anyone over 40. Whether you feel a bit off or you're feeling great and just want to optimize, this is relevant.
Absolutely. And it's so important because that old stereotype of decline, modern science just doesn't back it up. It really doesn't.
So what does the science show then?
Well, the research actually points to the 40s and beyond as being packed with biological and cognitive potential, real opportunity.
Oh, okay.
We're seeing more evidence now that conditions people thought were just part of aging can sometimes be reversed. Preventative strategies. They can be incredibly effective when started in midlife.
So it's not just about living longer, but living better for longer.
Precisely. Extending your health span those years you feel robust, vibrant, engaged. Your second prime, genuinely, can be even better than your first.
Okay, so second prime. It sounds good, but what does it actually mean? Is it just a catchy phrase?
No, it's more than that. Think of it less like a wellness slogan and more like a strategic window.
A strategic window. Explain that.
It's this unique point in life where everything kind of converges, right? You've got accumulated wisdom, all that life experience.
Yeah, you've learned a few things.
Exactly. And that meets this emerging understanding of your biology, how it's changing, but also how adaptable it still is. It's about using that insight to recalibrate your whole system.
Not just accepting things, but actively adjusting.
Right. Recalibrating, not retreating. Like maybe you use that patience you've gained over the years to finally nail down a healthier way of eating that felt impossible when you were younger and everything was chaotic.
Interesting. So using your life stage to your advantage.
It's a time for strategic transformation, absolutely. Yeah. And it tackles this issue where many people find themselves floating.
Floating.
Yeah, in what some call the unregulated era. You're not technically sick, not enough to need specific medical treatment for a disease maybe, but you're also not really thriving.
Like relying on caffeine to power through the day or just accepting brain fog.
Exactly, those kinds of things,
Yeah.
accepting them as just getting older. And the traditional health system often isn't set up to help you proactively before things become a real problem. It can feel fragmented.
Okay, I see.
The second prime idea offers a framework, an antidote to that fragmentation. It positions midlife as this phenomenal opportunity for anyone over 40 to potentially get fitter than ever.
Really? Fitter than in your 20s?
It's possible, yes, to challenge your brain in new ways, to keep improving. It's about taking control, not just passively accepting perceived decline.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. You mentioned a story, an example.
Ah, yes, John Harrison, incredible example. Born way back in 1914.
Wow.
He didn't even start swimming competitively until he was 79. 79.
No way.
Yes. And get this. By the time he hit 100, he was setting world records for his age group in freestyle and backstroke. He was still training and racing past 104.
That's mind-blowing. It completely shatters the idea of inevitable decline.
Doesn't it just do this? It exemplifies living vibrantly into extreme old age. If he could do that, starting so late, it really makes you question the limits we put on ourselves, doesn't it?
Absolutely. What are my limiting beliefs about my own potential as I age?
And his story ties into a really important scientific concept, the compression of morbidity.
Compression of morbidity. Sounds technical.
It's actually a pretty straightforward idea proposed by Dr. James Fries. The goal isn't just to live longer, but to delay the onset of chronic diseases, things like heart disease, diabetes, dementia.
So you live healthier for longer.
Exactly. You compress the period of ill health or infirmity into a much shorter window right at the very end of life, if possible. Instead of decades of decline, you aim for decades of vitality.
And midlife is key for that.
Midlife interventions are crucial. Things focused on smart movement, precise nutrition, managing stress effectively, staying social connected. These build the foundation to achieve that compression. It's about setting yourself up now for a healthier future.
Okay, so this moves beyond just inspiring stories like John Harrison's. There's a system here. You mentioned a book, Second Prime, and its author.
Yes, Claire Richardson.
Yeah.
She wrote the book and is also the founder of GHS clinics. Her background is really relevant here. Deep experience in clinical research and innovation.
From where?
Years working within the NHS and also in the pharmaceutical industry. So a real blend of clinical practice and research understanding.
And what drove her to develop this Second Prime idea?
Well, she talks about her frustration, really. Frustration with that dominant stereotype that hitting 40 means you're basically starting to slide into frailty, maybe having a midlife crisis.
The narrative we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And when she looked into it, did her own research, she realized the science just didn't support that doom and gloom picture at all.
Interesting.
Her mission became about closing that gap, the gap between what science shows is possible in midlife and the practical, actionable strategies people actually have access to. She saw this period, the 40s and beyond, as this time of incredible opportunity.
Opportunity in what sense?
Opportunity to potentially reverse conditions, implement really effective preventative strategies, mitigate those early risk indicators before they become big problems. The idea that your second prime can genuinely be better than your first.
Fitter, sharper.
Yes, potentially the fittest of your life, challenging your brain, continuing to improve. It's a very proactive and optimistic view, but one she argues is grounded in science.
Okay, let's get into that science then. What supports this idea of midlife opportunity?
Well, there are several key areas. First up, something you might have heard of, neuroplasticity.
The brain's ability to change.
Exactly. For a long time, the thinking was the adult brain was pretty much fixed. After a certain age, that's it. But we now know that's fundamentally wrong.
Okay.
The adult brain can and does form new connections. It adapts significantly throughout life. There's a concept called the scaffolding theory of aging and cognition revised, STACI-CR for short. Yeah, it essentially shows that as we age, our brain doesn't just passively decline. When challenged, it actively builds new neural pathways, like scaffolding, to maintain function or compensate.
So it finds workarounds.
It does more than that. It actively remodels. So learning that new language, picking up a complex instrument, tackling challenging projects at work, these things literally encourage your brain to build new structures.
Use it or lose it, but also build it if you use it.
Precisely. Your cognitive sharpness isn't set in stone. It's trainable, especially in midlife.
That's encouraging. What else?
Then there's metabolic health.
Yeah.
This is a huge one. We have solid evidence, like from the Calorie trials, showing that targeted midlife interventions make a real difference.
What kind of interventions?
Things like modest adjustments in diet, increasing physical activity, getting better at managing stress. These lead to measurable improvements in disease risk factors and even markers of biological age.
So you can actually turn back the clock a bit, biologically speaking.
The markers suggest that yes. And long-term studies, like the cardiac cohort, tracked people over decades. Those who maintained their fitness through midlife, significantly lower blood pressure, healthier cholesterol levels, much lower risk of type 2 diabetes later on.
So proves you can potentially be the fittest of your life in your 40s, 50s, and beyond, and that it has real health payoffs.
Absolutely. It's about mitigating those risks early and building resilience.
Okay, neuroplasticity, metabolic health. What about hormones? That's often a big topic for midlife.
Definitely. And it's crucial to look at both sides. Menopause in women gets, rightly, a lot of attention. It has systemic effects and often needs a combined approach, medical, lifestyle, sometimes psychosexual support.
Right.
But there's also a male equivalent, often called andropause. This is the age-related decline in testosterone, which typically starts for men in their 40s.
And that's often missed.
Very often overlooked, yes. But it can lead to things like reduced libido, loss of muscle mass, fatigue, even problems with executive function planning, focus. It's subtle but impactful.
So the second prime approach doesn't just see these hormonal shifts as inevitable decline.
Not at all. It views them as signals, as strategic prompts. Prompts to maybe adjust lifestyle, seek medical advice if needed, recalibrate. It's about understanding the shifts and responding proactively, not just accepting them as the end of the story, leveraging them as a catalyst for positive change.
Okay, that's a lot of compelling science. But it can also feel a bit overwhelming. Like, where do you even start? How does Claire Richardson's second prime system make this manageable?
That's the key, isn't it? Turning the science into something actionable. She developed this proprietary four-stage model. Think of it like a health operating system for
A
yourself.
health operating system, I like that.
Yeah, it's designed to help you figure out where your biology is now and then create a strategy to take it where you want it to go. It breaks it down.
So, what are the stages?
Stage one is audit. This is about deep self-reflection, but structured. It uses a tool they developed called the Brain-Body Inventory, or BBI.
What does that do?
It's based on research, and it helps you map out how different parts of your system are working together or maybe not working together so well. Your energy levels, your cognitive function, your gut health, sleep patterns.
So, identifying patterns and maybe tension points.
Exactly. Crucially, it's not a diagnostic tool looking for disease. It's an insight tool to understand your unique internal coherence. Where are the strengths? Where's the friction?
Okay, audit first. What's next?
Stage two is recalibrate. Based on what you learn in the audit, you make targeted adjustments.
Not changing everything at once?
No, that's usually unsustainable. It's about focusing on the high-impact pivots, the small changes to behaviors, inputs, stressors that give you the biggest bang for your buck.
Like tweaking nutrition for energy or optimizing sleep for focus?
Precisely those kinds of things, small hinges that swing big doors.
Makes sense. Stage 3.
Stage three is build. This is where you create the structure to support those changes. Establishing core routines, maybe integrating data from wearables, setting up coaching or support systems, embedding nutritional frameworks.
Building the architecture for this new operating system.
You got it. Making the changes stick by building the right environment and supports around them.
And the final stage.
Sustain. This is where the intentional changes become your new normal, your rhythm. It's about maintaining momentum, building real-world resilience so you don't get knocked off course easily.
And making adjustments along the way.
Yes, making course corrections quickly in weeks, maybe, not letting things slide for years. It becomes a continuous loop. Audit, recalibrate, build, sustain. A dynamic system designed to serve you long-term.
That sounds very structured and practical. Now, who actually delivers this? You mentioned GHS clinics.
That's right. GHS Clinics is the organization behind this proprietary second prime system. They describe themselves as a precision care clinic.
Precision care, what does that mean?
It means they focus on highly personalized care, particularly for chronic or complex health concerns. They offer something they call Integrated Specialist Preventative Care, or ISPC.
How does that differ from, say, going to your GP or a hospital specialist?
Well, they aim to sit in a unique space. They bridge the gap by offering care that's more integrated across different specialities, more focused on the long term, and deeply rooted in prevention, using these second prime principles.
Yeah.
It's less about just reacting to illness and more about proactively building health.
And where are they based? Is this only available if you live nearby?
Good question. Their physical clinic is in Cheltenham, in Gloucestershire, here in the UK. So they offer in-person services there.
Oh, yeah.
But they also have a robust remote service. So they can, and do, work with international clients too. The access isn't limited by geography.
That's good to know. So how do they stand out, apart from the second prime system itself?
Several things. They emphasize full multidisciplinary team, support doctors, nutritionists, coaches working together. Behavioral change is deeply integrated, not just an add-on.
Right, making changes stick.
Yeah, it's research embedded, evidence-based, using global best practices. The focus is very much on achieving tangible health outcomes, not just providing access to appointments.
So if someone listening is over 40, maybe intrigued by this idea, how do they actually start? How do they engage with GHS clinics and this second prime approach?
The first practical step is usually to engage with their second prime health audit.
The one based on the brain-body inventory you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. That BBI tool.
Is it like filling out a medical questionnaire?
Not quite. It's important to understand it's primarily a reflective self-assessment tool, not really a diagnostic one in the traditional sense.
Okay, so what's its purpose then?
Its purpose is to help you, and then subsequently the specialists at GHS, if you work with them, get a much clearer picture of how your mind and body systems are interacting.
Finding those connections.
Yes. Identifying your unique strengths, where there might be friction or challenges, and ultimately where the biggest opportunities for improvement lie. It's about gathering insights to empower you.
Rather than just labeling a problem.
Precisely. It covers areas like cognitive load, energy and recovery, metabolic health, movement, the gut-brain connection, even things like your mindset towards longevity and your sense of embodied identity.
So you complete this audit, then what?
Well, The process encourages you to reflect on the results
Right.
and maybe even draft a simple vision statement like, in 12 months, I want to feel more, or I want to be able to.
Setting an intention.
Exactly. And then maybe choosing one key area, an anchor domain, to focus on initially, making it manageable.
And from there, people can find out more and potentially start working directly with the second prime experts at GHS clinics.
Yes, the audit is often the gateway to exploring their services further. And again, it's really for anyone over the age of 40 who's looking to proactively optimize their health trajectory. Not just if you feel something's wrong, but if you want to build your best future health.
Okay, so wrapping this up, let's crystallize the main takeaway. What's the core message here?
I think the core message is that midlife, those years from 40 onwards, shouldn't be viewed as the start of an inevitable decline or some kind of crisis.
Right.
It's actually a pivotal time, a moment of incredible adaptive potential and really significant opportunity.
An opportunity to build that health operating system you talked about.
Exactly. A system that's robust, personalized, and designed to serve you well for decades to come. It's about actively flourishing, not just passively aging.
And the science backs this up.
Unequivocally. The science is clear. Your brain can keep learning and adapting. Your body can still get fitter and stronger. Your metabolic health can be improved. Your second prime really can be your best prime.
The potential is there.
The potential is absolutely there. The key ingredients are recognizing your own agency, your power to influence your health, and having a structured, science-backed plan to follow.
Which leads us to a final thought, maybe a question for you listening. What if the peak of your health, your greatest vitality, isn't actually behind you? What if it's something you can still strategically design, build, and experience in the future?
It's a powerful question.
What will you choose to own about your health journey starting today?